beyond the skies. You and I, we're breaking bounds on Baobab.
Okay, so let me play the video.
Solid Minds Counseling Clinic, where your mental well-being is our priority. Solid Mind Counseling Clinic is a private and independent outpatient mental health clinic licensed by the Rwanda's Ministry of Health. Our founders believe in the possibility of unlocking the full potential of every person through evidence-based mental health services tailored to individuals, couples, families, and children. Our dedicated team of professionals is here to support you with a confidential and compassionate care. We work with public and private institutions to deliver employee assistance programs, capacity bridging, training, consultation, research, and much more. We also support education institution staff and students in their academic and learning journey. At Solid Minds Counseling Clinic, we actively engage with the community to raise awareness and reduce the fears surrounding mental health and mental health support. We support and encourage collaborations, youth-led initiatives, and drive public events to promote mental well-being across different walks of life. Our dedication to mental well-being reaches beyond Rwanda, extending across Africa and in the diaspora. Please contact Solid Mind Counseling Clinic, where we nurture resilience and foster hope. Live out your potential through mental well-being. Reach out to us today to begin your journey to mental wellness.
Okay, so just looking at the slide, this talks about who we are, Solid Minds, and I think also having been this space, we are also Mastercard's mental health technical partner, just able to mention as well. So just to kickstart, I wanted just able to ask able to be interactive throughout this session. So I had a bit of icebreakers, and anybody can able to feel free to mention one word describing your current feelings, one thing you enjoy outside daily routine, and then the last one would be one personal and professional achievement you're proud of, as well as what is your expectation for this session. So I'd want at least the audience able to engage. I can hear from them. I don't know, is that possible, Calvin?
All right. So I'm just allowing everybody to be able to access the chat, so that you can put it out there in the chat. Unless you want them to speak, then they can raise their hands and I can allow them the mic.
Yes, at least you can have like 2 or 3 responses, and from there on you can proceed with the presentation.
Okay. All right. I guess you could pose the question to them again and then see if we're gonna have 1 or 2 responses come in.
Okay, so just looking at the questions, we can answer in any particular order. Just one word describing your current feelings, one thing you enjoy outside of your daily routine, and then one personal professional achievement you're proud of, as well as what is expectation for this session. So you can choose one or answer any of the question. Because the purpose of this would be just maybe to hear from you. I think I can see some messages in the chat. Apparently it's in, I can see from Kelvin content. Yeah, just being able to understand, I think, on the content, surfing on the internet. Edwin is happy as well. Yeah, so too much to learn. Each one is tired as well, and depending on the time, I think it's afternoon, evening as well, depending on where you're joining us from. Understandable. Happy as well. Okay. So key to it is we are all looking to learn from this and being able to share and be able to support in regard to mental wellness. Thank you for the comments. So as part of this webinar, I broke down the presentation to 2. The first part would be basically understanding mental wellness. You notice the term mental wellness being spoken as regard to mental health. A lot of times interchangeably, but all of them are looking at the society now, most people embrace mental wellness. So we'll be looking at what is mental wellness versus mental illness. We'll also look at WHO, a definition of mental health, and then signs of good mental health. So the first question I'd ask, I still want this to be interactive. What's the first word or image that comes to your mind when you think of mental health stroke wellness? So feel free to write on the chat, or be able to raise your hand, be able to share your responses. So I'd pose the question again. What is the first word or image that comes to your mind when you think of mental health, stroke mental wellness? I'm sure you've all heard of it before. So there's no right or wrong answer. So from Eric, I can see there's exhaustion. When you scroll online, I think there's a Pico mentioned about depression. Yes. Think about when talk about mental health, think about depression. What else? Can have like 2 or 3 responses if I'm able to give the answer. What comes to your mind? Mental health, aside from depression. I'm sure you've all heard of it, depression, anxiety, and so forth. So a lot of times just to be able to demystify the real definition is mental health is how well we think, feel, and function in daily life. It includes clarity in decision making, handling stress, resilience, and emotional regulation. So next, I'd also wanted us to look at some of the common mental health myths and reality. So the first myth when it comes to mental health is mental illnesses aren't real. So uh, on the contrary, just as with heart disease and diabetes, mental illnesses are legitimate medical illnesses. And then for me, having done this for 15 years, I actually mentioned to you that they're actually quite real. The second myth would be mental illnesses are just an excuse for poor behavior. So while some behaviors may be controlled, depending on the type of mental illnesses, many people are not able to fully control their behaviors because a lot of times without that sort of awareness, it might be very difficult. But the more one is aware, is actually quite interventions that are there to able to support. The third myth would be people don't recover from mental illnesses. So I'm a testament to mention that there are more treatment services and community support systems than ever before. Back then, when I first started, there was quite stigma around mental wellness, mental illnesses. But right now, there's a lot more embrace, there's a lot more treatments available, and even looking at the communities, there are different ways with the community are able to engage. I think I was just reading recently about areas like Togo, whereby I talk about hairdressers being the first point of contact when it comes to mental health support, the recovery. And then the last myth is mental health is a mental health condition is a sign of weakness. So on the contrary, if anything, the opposite is true. Fighting mental health condition takes a great deal of strength. But at the point where you're able to come forth, able to understand, be able to have that awareness, ideally is a sign of strength. So as I'd mentioned about the World Health Organization definition, mental health is defined as a state of well-being, uh, in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. So key to it is just looking at the statements that are highlighted, being that it's a state of well-being, meaning can be physical, emotional, mental, and very much so just looking at the overall well-being of a human being, whereby you realize his or her own potential, can cope with normal stresses of life, noting that stress is part and parcel of life, and more importantly, able to work productively and fruitfully, able to make contribution to her or his community. Then next we look at mental health and mental illnesses. As I mentioned, mental health and mental illnesses are often used interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. You talk about mental health, it talks about your general state of well-being, state of mind, something that needs to be addressed. But when you talk about mental illness or mental disorders, e.g. psychiatric or psychological, involve disturbances in thinking, feeling, or behavior. Small disturbances, these aspects of life are common, but when these disturbances cause significant distress to the person or interfere with their daily life, they're considered a mental illness or disorder. I think key to it, when at the point where elements of stress built over time leads to depression now affecting how you interact, how you perceive life, and so forth, more in regards to mental illnesses or disorder. Case in point also anxiety coming about where one focuses a lot on the future and not actually on the present. Brings a lot now that sort of difficulty being able to cope with the daily life as well as some of the examples. So looking at that's the first part, just being able to talk about just some of the basic concepts when it comes to mental health. We will now dive into the topic that brought us all here, where we look at what is social and civil unrest and why youth are so especially vulnerable. We'll also be able to look at the purpose of the session, whereby it offer coping tools, provide safe processing spaces, promote healthy mental wellness habits as well. So by definition, we look at social civil unrest. So by definition, social unrest refers to the disruptions in normal functioning of society caused by dissatisfaction, frustration, or protests from groups of people. This may include demonstrations, strikes, or public expression of anger against perceived injustice or inequality. And this is something that you have seen right across the continent. I think some of the common examples are looking at Kenya, Sudan, Ethiopia, the north part of Uganda, and even Southern Africa as well. So it's something that is very much present in society and something that definitely needs to be able to be addressed from a mental health perspective. And the second definition of civil unrest, it's a broader term, often involves organized public disturbances such as protests as well, riots, or acts of resistance directed towards government institutions or policy. I think one of the most famous ones was particularly when it came to the Gen Z movement in Kenya as well. So the next question would be, why are the youth especially vulnerable? And that there are a number of answers to this. Looking at this, I broke it down to different points. So the first point would be, but the youth are particularly vulnerable because of the developmental stage. Looking at adolescents and young adults, this goes right from 14 all the way to 26, 27 years, even at the point, depending on where you are, young adults can be even up to 30 years, are still developing emotionally, mentally, socially. Unrest can disturb their sense of security, stability, and identity. And this is something that was quite prevalent at the point where one thing I said is at the height of COVID, it affected a lot of people in terms of anxiety, depression, even in some cases mixed. And now looking at some of the rest, it also now heightens other elements of security, stability, and identity for the youth. The second point was exposure to violence and trauma. Youth are often caught in the middle of protests, clashes, or violent environments, which can result in physical danger, trauma, or even loss of loved ones. And this is something that we have seen, I think, through the multiple reports, even sharing a lot from the news as well. We see a lot of violence, people caught up, and that sort of exposure causes a lot of trauma. And that trauma definitely impacts on the community, impacts on the youth more so than before. Where even at the point where young people's lives are lost, this leaves a lot of trauma, not only to the immediate family, but to the society as well. And then the third element why the youth are vulnerable would be economic insecurity. Many youths currently struggle with unemployment or underemployment. Unrest worsens these struggles, increasing
Les jeunes
feelings,
sont particulièrement vulnérables à cause
increasing
de leur
feelings of
état de
hopelessness
développement,
or even frustration. Yeah,
leur
because the thing
exposition à la violence et au traumatisme,
looking at
mais
it,
également
the
leur
youth
sécurité
struggle a lot. And
économique,
at the point where
l'influence de
there's
leurs
civil
pairs.
unrest, you find like even businesses unable to function, causing a lot of struggle, causing a lot of affecting even the income of the youth as well.
Donc,
The fourth,
et
the fourth
évidemment,
element
tous
would
ces
be
éléments-là peuvent
on peer influence,
avoir un
whereby
impact
young
fort
Can
people
you hear
sur
me?
are
Hello?
highly
Sur le...
Hello,
Hello, sorry,
Calvin?
since the interpretation is coming to the main channel, I'm not supposed to be hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, let me see if we can fix that. All right,
Okay.
yes. Sorry, Hemion, seems like you've been kicked off as an interpreter. Let me add you again, and so that we can fix that. Update. Okay, I think now we should be good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Calvin. So as I was mentioning on the fourth element, why the youth are particularly vulnerable when it comes to civil and social unrest. I mentioned about peer influence, where young people are highly influenced by peer groups. In times of unrest, this can increase the likelihood of risky behavior, such as joining violent protests or being manipulated by political actors. And this, for as little as even 100 bob Kenya shillings and that sort of thing. And as that sort of influence, because just looking at the previous point in terms of economic security, whereby when making a day living is hard, chances are people get drawn into political actors, being able to trying to make a living, and as that sort of influence end up now engaging in risky behavior as part of the youth. The fifth point would be limited coping mechanisms. Unlike adults, youth may not yet have developed strong resilience, problem solving, or healthy coping strategies, making them more prone to stress, anxiety, depression, or even substance abuse. Because ideally, at the point where one is an adolescent, a young adult, they are prone to impulses, and which cannot be the best at that particular point in time, leading now to a lot more stress, anxiety, post the acts, the incidents that may have occurred as well. The sixth point would be disrupted education and opportunities. A result of civil and social unrest leads to school closures, displacement of people from where they're known to be their home, or even instability during unrest that can interrupt their learning and long-term career prospects. I think one thing that was very prevalent a lot in terms of Kenya, whenever there was sort of protests, you'd find like some of the public institutions being affected in terms of the learning, people having to take longer to graduate as a result of some of the civil and social unrest. And then lastly would be identity search and activism. Youth are often at the forefront of social movements. Because of their idealism and energy, being youth, there's a lot of energy. While this can be positive, can also expose them to greater danger and even disappointment. At the point where there's so much expectation, so much in terms of just being able to fight for a cause, but then when there's no results, leads a lot now to that sort of disappointment based on how much energy was spent in the process. So next, I also wanted to mention about the impact of unrest on the youth as a result of what I'd mentioned to you, bringing it now closer to mental health. It will lead to increased anxiety, fear, uncertainty, because at the point where some of these protests would prop up, we find now there's a lot more anxiety. What will happen? Will I be safe? Will I be able to get back home in that sort of instances? Leading a lot more to anxiety. It will also lead to disrupted routines, school community activities as well. If those some areas I think I know about, talk about market days. Whenever there's those sort of unrest, it definitely disrupt those sort of routines. Exposure to violence or trauma. This can be from fellow youth members, even sometimes in cases where you find like police and just being able to try to control the sort of unrest. And then lastly, mistrust in leadership or societal systems, whereby you find that now people want to take matters into their own hands and now leading particularly now to a lot of chaos as well on the youth. So some of the mental health warning signs to note at the point where one is going through civil or social unrest is withdrawal or isolation. Uh, Things that you enjoyed doing as well, I find yourself no longer being able to enjoy anymore. There's a lot more isolation, people fearing groups, and I think this is something that I think we saw a lot, even post COVID, whereby at the point where it was quite controlled, going to a public space, going to public means there's always that fear coming a lot about. So for you to know that there is something that needs to be addressed, the definite isolation. I'd also mentioned about anger, irritability, mood swings, which ideally needs to be able to investigate it further. Trouble sleeping or concentrating. Yeah. So if you're having trouble sleeping, talk about uh, insomnia where it's little or no sleep, even at the point where concentration becomes difficult, is definitely a warning sign. Substance use or even at what admission, substance abuse, where I talk about four key questions for you to be able to be aware of when it comes to substances. Where talk about if anybody has mentioned for you the need to cut down. Do you feel angry, annoyed about your use? Do you feel guilty? Do you require an eye opener to be able to function? Are some of the warning signs. Feeling of hopelessness. Yeah, and this just basically just summarizes it. Where you're feeling hopeless, there's no sense of future, there's no motivation. It's definitely a warning sign mentally. So next I'd mention about grounding and the coping techniques because I've having noticed some of those signs. It's also very important to look at how can you cope at the point where you're isolating us, at the point where you're feeling withdrawn. The first experiment at the point where one is feeling anxious, talk about deep breath techniques and the mindfulness, just being able to be present, being able to be in the moment. Because looking at depression and anxiety, what both miss out ideally is just being present in your day-to-day functioning. I'd also mention about journaling your emotions. So this is very important. At the point where one is isolated, just being able to put down your thoughts, your emotions on paper has known to be really effective because that is a form of outlet. To be able to share, to be able to have an outlet is very important. I'd also mention about limiting media exposure. This is something that throughout COVID, even post-COVID, talk about if the news made you very anxious, if people's comments made you anxious, you look at how do you limit that sort of exposure? How do you limit in terms of the reels you watch, the TikToks that you watch? Because even now with technology, the moment you start watching something continuously, the algorithms sort of like hone in on that and you find a lot more of the same content. So once you limit that sort of exposure, it actually also eases and enables you to cope better. And then also mentioning creating a safe routines, particularly when it comes to depression, having done this for the same 15 years. One thing that has known to help a lot when it comes to depressive symptoms is just being able to have a routine, uh, particularly when you talk about loss of loved one, because there are stages one goes through right from shock all the way to acceptance and hope. But one thing that has always been key is just being able to have a routine. You're having a workplace, if you're having school commitments, that sort of routine gets you out of your comfort zone and eventually enables you to accept and have hope for the future. And then lastly, as part of the coping technique would be practicing gratitude. At every moment, just being able to be thankful. And thankfulness goes a long way to being able to just appreciate who you are, where you are in terms of space and time. And just being able to look at that element of just the more thankful you are, definitely find yourself attracting more and more to yourself. Then next I'd mention about creating safe spaces because a lot of times at the point where there's a social and civil unrest, creating a safe space is very integral. And what safe spaces look like would be areas where there's non-judgmental, where you find yourself having commonality, having gone through a difficult situation together. There's no judgment. Everything that is talked about remains confidential. It's more or less youth-led discussions encouraged. And this can be from uh, university setup, community setup, about even religious setup. And most importantly, it must be able to be facilitated by a trusted adult or peers. And even you talk about even professionals who would be able to guide that sort of space. Some of the examples I mentioned, school wellness clubs, community center, and online platforms where one can able to feel supported based on the time and distance, which sometimes may be difficult as well. And then I would also like to look at peer and adult support system, whereby I talked about encouraging peer-to-peer support. As part of Solid Minds, we find ourselves in different spaces of different parts of the world. And the one thing that has also we've known to be quite supportive when it comes to the youth is peer-to-peer support, where you find like in places like Uganda and Southern Africa, just being able to train fellow peers in regards to how to recognize, how to respond, and more importantly, how to refer has been really timely in being able to support. And then also role of teachers, parents, counselors as part of support system is also very important. And then even at the point where just like you being able to be part of this conversation, how do you actively listen and emotional validation are very key as part of our peer and adult support system. Then lastly, checking in regularly, yeah, at the point where you have peer-to-peer support, being able to check on each other, being able to support has been timely because sometimes even that one phone call or just that message of just saying hello can actually be a game changer in an individual's life. And it's also as part of this, when it comes to social civil unrest, sometimes we may not have that option to choose. And whenever you go through stressful, you look at also resilience. So resilience is also very important. Some of the activities to build resilience would be looking at art therapy, drawing, music as well has been known to be very instrumental in just being able to create that resilience. Writing as well, in terms of journaling, helps a lot in resilience. There's also the element which has also come up quite a bit in terms of storytelling circles, where a problem shared is a problem half solved, and just that element of just being able to have an outlet to share your story, to be heard, promotes a lot of resilience among groups. Physical activities, sports as well, and this ideally can be a unifying factor, can be a resilience builder because at the point where the body is physically fit, is able to handle a lot of stressors that is posed against it. And then lastly, volunteer community engagement, just being able to find yourself in the spaces where you find people who are more vulnerable and people who have been also deeply affected. That sort of volunteering, community engagement is very key as part of building resilience and just being able to bring that cohesiveness in the community and among the youth as well. So it's also very important to note that when do you seek professional help? Because as I mentioned, as part of peer-to-peer, there's an element where you first respond and then be able to refer. So when to seek professional help, talk about persistent when one is experiencing persistent sadness or fear. This can be from 3 months to even 6 months. Goes beyond that, definitely there's need for seeking professional help. Where there's elements of harm or suicidal thoughts, because a lot of it, as I said, stress built over time and leads to depression. Depression leads now to one having suicidal ideation, and even one, in some cases, some people acting on it. So when there's self-harm, be it cutting, be it small ways of just harming themselves, one would definitely need professional help. Difficulty with daily functioning as well, where one is unable to be productive member of society, chances are would need professional help. So some of the professional options, school counselors, local mental health clinics, hotlines as well, and also as Solid Minds being the mental health technical partner, so we can also be able to support online as well as physical, depending on the space that you're in. Then some of the resources and helplines talk about trusted mental health hotlines, local youth counseling centers as well, some of the websites and apps as well, which have also been known to help quite a lot, looking at the era that we're in, where AI is also being able to be infused as part of mental wellness, being able to have those as well. And then lastly, I'd want to just able to give a sort of an encouragement, a closing encouragement, where I'd make sure you're not alone. At the point where one experiences social and civil unrest, it's okay to feel your emotions are valid. Yeah, seeking help is strength, not weakness. And then lastly, together we can build a safer, kinder community just by being able to look out for each other, being able to support one another throughout this process. Yeah, then as part of it, I want to just to mention about open, one moment, a sort of a reflection question, whereby what's one feeling you've had during recent unrest? What helps you feel calm or safe? Any questions or resources you'd want to explore as part of it? Thank you. So I'd open the floor just to be able to hear your comments about this and also be able to answer questions in regards to the topic. So feel free to write on the chat box or be able to raise your hand so you can able to respond. I can able to respond. I can see Caesar. Trazel's hand is raised. Caesar, you can, Kelvin, you can allow him to speak.
All right, let me give them access to speak. I don't see any hand raised. Okay, I see. Caesar. All right, cool. I've allowed Caesar to speak. Caesar, you have access to the.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Caesar, from University of Pretoria,
Okay.
courtesy
Welcome.
of MasterCard Scholar. Says MasterCard Scholarship. I'm sorry I didn't join timely, but I hope I will not be off topic. Right now, like we are in a time of electing new leadership in the MasterCard family in University of Pretoria. So I'm actually in the race. So, and our voting link is open now for 24 hours. So we had a debate yesterday. So you can see that, yeah, it has been a recent unrest. So like going into the race. Throughout my leadership roles, I've been like whenever I declared my intentions to stand, most times I've been unopposed because I've been with friends who will say, if you have gone, okay, you just go. But here, yeah, I've got two opponents that we had to debate, and so I was a bit nervous, but yeah, later I was able to bring in my message, which was yeah, and then I realized that, oh, people were buying into the ideas that I was bringing up. And by the time I came back to the race, I was actually now calm, and I was like, hey, it seemed like what seemed very far was actually, I managed to deliver the message. And so I must say somehow I'm now not really at rest fully, but I hope for the best in the results. So
Yeah.
it has taught me to be able to manage situations of unrest and still have positive, because in such a situation you can even forget what you wanted to say and all that kind of thing. Then people can end up judging you because they may think, hey, this is not actually a leader, because you find you are not calm enough to be able to speak very well. So thank you very much. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caesar. And I think one key element was just being able to share your views, share your vision as a leader, and just being able to get that because for communication to be effective, there must be sending of a message, but then more importantly, feedback. When the feedback is positive, definitely boosts a lot of your confidence. And I think looking at it is just being able to continuously engage, but also more importantly, being able to look at how do you deliver. When it comes to races as well, one thing is also very important that you know that in any competition there's a win and a loser. So it's also very important also to be able to be flexible mentally At the point where one is by going into a race, there are winners and losers, and more importantly, how will you still continue to support the community of the MasterCard at University of Pretoria? Thank you. Thank you so much, Caesar. Any other comments?
It looks like there's a question from Geneva.
Yes. I cannot see it. Can you see it, Calvin?
Yes, I've given Geneva the microphone access.
Do you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we
we
can hear you
now.
now. Jin.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, William. Thank you for sharing. My name is Iko Jineba. I'm from University in Ouagadougou, in Burkina Faso. Currently, I'm studying sanitation, and I'm a MasterCard Foundation scholar. So
Okay,
this topic was very interesting, and answering to the question, I think the recent unrest that I felt was is social unrest. Um, I was feeling different like others regarding all the motivation and all the love for social media. And me, I'm not social media. I don't like to go and post my photos or give what I say what I did during the day. I don't like it, but everyone around me do it, and I feel like I'm the one of I feel like an extraterrestrial. Yeah, because I'm not like others, and this put me in bad situation where I was feeling like isolation, and the solution that I find was to be alone, not to answer or address message to others, and be only alone at home. This was a situation that I didn't uh, manage well. Yeah, and what help I feel calm or safe. I think that I have to discuss with a auntie, my auntie who understand me very well. But it's not a good way because this feeling came back again, and I don't know if you have some solution for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank
I
you.
hope you
Another
understood what I said because my English is not very clear.
Yeah, you did well. You did well. You explained yourself well. And I think the communication is has been passed. And I think
Mm.
looking at it, at the point where one is experiencing social unrest, I think looking at it, there's an element where there's a lot of peer pressure. Yeah, people have to sometimes fake it until you make it. So there's also a lot of pressure, particularly in the youth. And the result of it, when now you do not bow to that sort of pressure, there's a lot more isolation because people now tend to segregate. But what I'd
Mm.
always mention is being able to have that sort of safe space where you can able to express yourself. I like the fact that you reached out to an auntie because it's somebody who is somebody you trust, somebody who is your confidant, but also just being able to seek that sort of professional help. What are some of the anxieties that come about by you being able to share your picture, be part of social media, or what are some of the insecurities you might have? And now involves now just a deeper lens into your past history and just being able to understand what led to you being who you are right now. What I'd mention is we are some representation of our past, but not necessarily our future. So every day that we're in our present, we're able to understand what about our past makes us who we are. But for us to change, we have to be able to look at how do we get out of our comfort zone? How do you able to look at that positive outlook where you look at it where what you post is basically you expressing your right, and it's a freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Doesn't matter what people have to say, you have to just look at what uh, is comfortable with you. But more importantly, you have to dig down and dig into your past first before you're able to understand. I hope that helps, Janine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for these counsels.
Yes.
And William, if you mind, I'm gonna jump in really quick here.
Yes.
To address Geneva. I'm probably gonna address her quickly in French just to make sure she understands the context really well. Geneva, tu m'entends? Tu m'entends bien?
Oui, oui, je vous reçois.
D'accord. OK. Est-ce que moi, je suis programme manager ici à Baobab. Et j'ai compris ta question et j'aimerais te demander si tu aimerais être contacté par un de nos psychologues de Solid Minds pour que, voilà, que tu continues la conversation avec cette personne-là. Est-ce que ça peut t'intéresser?
Est-ce qu'il s'agit du même conseiller qu'on a sur le site ici? Parce que je pense qu'il y a un également qui nous suit là, à deux yeux.
Ça sera quelqu'un de différent qui parle français, qui pourra travailler avec toi.
Oui, ça m'intéresse.
Ok, d'accord. Comme ça, tu m'envoies dans le chat ton adresse email et on va te contacter. Ok?
D'accord.
D'accord. Thank you, William. I just pretty much asked
Thank you.
Geneva if she would like additional support because I know on your team you do have some francophone counselors, psychologists that we've worked with in the past. So she's going to send me her email and we'll connect her with one of your colleagues, French speakers, for more follow-ups because it sounds like she would need like a continued kind of conversation with someone.
Yeah, that would
J'envoie
be
ça
great because
aux autres et panélistes, hein.
Non, tu m'envoies ça à moi, à mon nom directement, Credo Kaninda.
Je vois pas la liste des participants.
Ok, je vais t'écrire et tu vas répondre à mon message.
Ok, super.
D'accord.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, William.
okay, thank you so much, Pedro. I can see there's a message on the chat box from Edwin as well. I think mentioned about feeling anxious and worried in terms of recent unrest. What helped him was talking to friends and spending time with the loved ones as well. Because I think safe space can be a location, but also can be people who are around you, people who make you feel comfortable and not enough to be able to share as well. So ideally, that is also a safe space to be able to help you cope with the civil or social unrest. Any other questions, comments, maybe? You can see Salim's hand is raised.
There are
Calvin,
some.
maybe?
Okay. I think there was a message in the group.
Yes, I think I read it from Edwin.
So I'm gonna give Kia Salim the access to the mic.
Okay, thank you.
And Aaron as well. I don't see Kia yet. Where's Kia? Okay, Kia.
His hand
I
is
see
raised
you.
now.
All right. Thank you, Kia.
So you can proceed here.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Kia Salim. I come from Kenya, Mombasa to be specific. So I have a question and maybe also I might need some support. Sorry for the background. I'm in my hostels. So my question is, currently I've noticed from the place I come from, Likoni, there's been very much issues of drugs and substance abuse. And I have seen several friends of mine who have lost their dreams. I have seen a 14-year-old who died on spot because of cocaine. I have seen several youths being shot dead by police officers. So this thing has been very traumatizing to me, and this thing has been like a real problem. So I decided to start up an initiative, youth-based initiative called Tabasam to help the youths. So one thing I noticed that for every addiction, it's a way to solve a problem because I've done my research for almost 2 years, and I've noticed that mental health plays a crucial role. So how best can you advise us as youth? Because I'm currently pursuing bachelor in nursing, so I'm applying a little bit of my knowledge in nursing and a little bit of mental health. But the group we are operating with, we don't have any knowledge. Like it's been hard to talk to such youths. Now, is it any other way we can approach them, or any other resources, or any other help that we can also get to help our society at large? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's interesting because, as I mentioned, I also come from Kenya and I was born in Mombasa. So, and I think Mombasa ideally is home for me, and it's what actually led me to be a psychologist, talk about drug and substance abuse. And having experienced that sort of trauma for yourself, definitely it is affecting also you as well. So when it comes to trauma, there are always three main aspects one can look at in terms of elements of self-blame, mistrust, and guilt. What I'd mention is there are quite a number of facilities that can able to support in regards to mental wellness, but just being able to they're able to delve deeper on that sort of element. In Mombasa, looking at the different drugs, there are also the elements of just the community support, being able to reach out. I know there are also quite a number of methadone clinics which are also available, just able to help support some of the people who are addicts, but also rehabilitation centers as well. I like the initiative we talk about Tabasamu, which means smile, right? Is that so, Salim?
Yes, it means to smile.
Yes. And I think key to it has always been, for me, having done this 15 years, what I'd mention is drugs is just a sign, a symptom of society. There are deeper issues when it comes to like elements of poverty, elements of trauma, elements of even like just so one has to be able to address not the symptom but the deeper issues in regards to source of living for the people who are abusing the drugs. Just being able to look at as well how to support in terms of some of the challenges they're facing, education as well. So addressing it would be looking at now the deeper issues in society, poverty, resources, education, just able to empower them. That's what I'd mention. And then being able to reach out to some of the organizations as well in terms of psychologists, society, Kenya as well. There are quite a number of society NGOs we can also be able to partner with as well. Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Salim.
Okay, yeah, it answers my question, but on the other aspects all that you have said, I also got it because it plays a crucial role. So, as a youth group, as a community-based organization, we also noticed that. So we are incorporating issues of entrepreneurship and everything. But one thing that has become a difficulty to access is the issue of mental health. Because I've also reached out to the Nakada, and it's been difficult to have a hold of them. Yeah, and youths are getting lost with time. Mental health is becoming a problem because I've been faced by several youth. They say we need help. We don't have help. You see, that's why we came up with this initiative. So like, and also the issue
Yeah.
of rehab centers. I think you know we have few rehab centers or mental health centers,
In the
psychiatry
coastal region.
sessions. Yeah, in the coast.
Mhm.
Yeah, we just I think maybe you have one or two. We have the portrays. So you see, like
Mhm.
the resources, it's very limited because I also have a brother who is the same. He's a victim of the circumstance. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
tried taking him to the psychiatry hospital. We have never found any help till now. He was there for 1 month. They say they place him for only 1 month maximum, and he's having schizophrenia, drug-induced psychosis, and he has been
Yeah.
that for 15 years till now, no help. So you see, like it's becoming a trauma to me. It's becoming a trauma to the society because the kind of behaviors you see. So it's really traumatizing to be honest, and we're requesting for any kind of like any kind of support, mentorship, any kind of advice? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this definitely needs a deeper conversation. I think I'd ask maybe the organizer to get your email, and then be able to have this conversation on a deeper level. Because I know definitely psychiatric services, a lot of times it's just more of like managing sort of. But there needs to be a lot when it comes to psychiatric support. There needs to be medication. There needs to be counseling as well to be able to support. And with schizophrenia, there's always need for adherence to medication. If there's no medication, definitely it's be very difficult to manage in terms of some of the signs and symptoms as well. So this is definitely a difficult, challenging time for you as a family. But I'd mention is that you're not alone, and I'd hope to be able to engage further with you if you can able to share with me your email just on the chat box. Thank you. Okay. Do you think for us to be able to manage them, I think that's another hand raised. There's Ambaniu.
Yeah,
I hope I pronounce it correctly.
okay. I am
Kel?
Albano from Ethiopia.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's to join into this session. I cannot speak English that much, but I will try to communicate with you. Then I think the best solution for this social unrest is, in my belief, it is giving priority for the society. That means the first thing that we think or that we give focus is the society. I mean that the society is a basic thing for one country or for one region. Then this selfishness or giving priority for oneself is what? That is the basic challenge for what? For unrest that existed in Ethiopia and other countries around Africa. Then, and I have one question for you. My question is that what is the main thing in Ethiopia for these social unrests and civil conflicts? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. But you think it's as you said, community definitely has to come together, just being able to support and being able to just provide sort of platforms where people are able to openly share, openly talk, and just being able to also pass down that sort of information in terms of resilience, stress management, because mental health, what I'd say, I think there is no health without mental health. So a lot of it just boils down to uh, the access to mental health, the elements where there's compassion in terms of compassionate community, just able to understand it, and more importantly, that sort of just being able to look at how do you continuously learn based on some of the different challenges that we are facing as a society now. That is what I'd answer. Thank you. I think in efforts time, I think I would like to pass that. Kelvin, do we still have time?
I'm sure we can take a few more questions if there are. This is a very important topic in space. So, William, if you have time, maybe we can take maybe one or two more.
Yes, I have time. For me, I'm here.
Okay.
So we can still allow one or two more questions. But I like the engagement, guys. Just keep the questions coming. I'll try and answer as best as I can. So feel free again just to write on the chat box or raise your hand. I was able to hear your voice. I'd love to hear your voices. I can see Salim's hand. Yes, Salim.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really interested on the issue of mental health. That's why I have a lot of questions. So one thing is that mental health has been neglected for long, but right now I can say there is great momentum. But the big question is, we're dealing with Africa. So how can we incorporate mental health in Africa? Remember, Africa, we also face different culture diversity. In Africa, we also face issues of poverty. So how can one get access to these mental health services? Because remember, mental health, there's no health without mental health, even from the definition of WHO. So how can we ensure also the poor, the vulnerable get access to this, yet because to reach to a psychologist, it requires accessibility, it requires funds. So how can we ensure mental health is universal and readily accessible? Thank you.
Thank you, Salim. I think that's something that is quite true. I think you said poverty, culture, particularly just stigma around mental health, mental disorders. It's quite prevalent. Yeah, but one thing is, I like the fact that in Kenya, there's been a lot of campaigns in regards to mental health and even in regards to access, because regarding even in terms of poverty, it's always about accessibility, whereby you find uh, the bridge that has not been there when it comes to accessing mental health is social work activity, because other psychologists, chances are psychologists might not be able to come to you, but our social worker can be able to access an individual at their home, at their premise, and then be able to sort of refer, because I know there are quite a number of organizations which normally do offer mental health just as part of the NGO services. So it's just a matter of just being able to link. But more importantly, as a society, even when one is accessing, there needs to be that element of adherence to the drugs, adherence to the therapeutic session, because therapeutic session is not a one-off in terms of session. It requires that sort of consistency, that sort of drive from the individual to change. As part of my background, I worked in mental health institutions. I worked at a rehabilitation center, and the one thing that was prevalent was the person must be willing to understand it is also their process, whether it be an addict, whether somebody who is undergoing any mental disorder. They must have that buy-in, and then more importantly, be able to be consistent with the therapy, because there are platforms physically, even online as well. But more importantly, there needs to be consistency and just being able to continuously champion the cause that it is okay not to be okay. I think in Kenya, we're seeing a lot in terms of the Gen Z movement, the riots, and even for yourself, Salim, having seen quite a number of people being shot and addicts, it just calls upon just the one voice to mention that you are not alone in this. There is support if you seek it, but you have to show consistency in the process. That's what I'd say. I hope that answers you, Salim.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot.
You're welcome. Any more questions? Comments? Maybe in regards to the session, the learning. One thing as part of this, we will always try and avail the content post this session, and feel free to still be able to pose questions, comments even beyond this session. I think I now hand over the space back to Guido, Calvin. So I'd just like to say,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you for allowing me this space. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and hopefully be able to continue the conversation in other spaces. Because for me, when it comes to mental, it's something that is very deep to me, and even looking at substance abuse as well, just being able to look at how can we able to support. And as society, we face different challenges. It's always about how can we able to be resilient, be able to share knowledge, share information, be able to support and be able to nurture our youth. I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Beyond the skies, you and I, we're breaking bounds on bounds.